if I say the word chaos in the global perspective, it's viewed as the negative. But in the world of college football, chaos is awesome. It's what makes the sport unique and different and made me fall in love with it, especially when teams defy their preseason expectations. And so far, prior to last season, nobody did a better job of that than South Carolina's Shane Beamer. When you look at 2021, when he was hired, the Gamecocks were expected to win 4 games. Spoiler alert, they won 6. And then in 2022, they were expected to win 6 games. Spoiler alert again, they won 8, including back-to-back upsets over contending college football playoff teams in Tennessee and Clemson. But now we're going into year 4. There's question marks galore surrounding this offense and what defines a winning campaign for Beamer to stick around in 2025. And we're also doing this X Factor series here on the channel, one player or coach that will define the season for success. And in my opinion, I got to break the rule on this one. What will define success for the Gamecocks is how well their defense plays to bail them out with a brand new offensive formality. So let's talk about it. What's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe down below because we're talking college football every single day leading up to week 1. Make sure that also you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. You want to yell at me for my bad takes, go ahead and follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson on Twitter or my own YouTube channel. Make sure you download the podcast version of the show, and to keep up with the #1 content surrounding your favorite team in the #1 conference, visit SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by RHOBACK. Use promo code SECU for 20% off all joggers, polos, hoodies, shorts, much more. Promo code SECU. Look good, feel good this upcoming fall at RHOBACK.com. South Carolina has a brand new offense. That's the only way to put it. You look at the returning production. 3 starters on offense, brand new quarterback, 2 new wide receivers who you don't know if they're going to be transfers that are going to stand out or up-and-comers that were recruited by Beamer. Brand new tight end comes into the fold. New offensive line. Everywhere is new. It's fresh. It's going to be different. And so when that's the case, you got to lean on the bread and butter veteranship of your defense. And you hear people talk about it. Nikki Emanwari even said earlier this past season, I believe that this defense is going to be built different. We're going to be one of the best in the country. It'll be a historic season. And when you look at the numbers, he's not wrong. 9 returning starters for this team, including Tonka Hemingway and TJ Sanders, who last year combined for 6 sacks and 11 pass breakups. They also brought in a ton of transfer names, including up-and-comers like Gilbert Iman from Florida State. You also were able to go ahead and bring in Buddy Mack from Pittsburgh. You also brought in Moncal Goodwine from Alabama. You also brought in Arian Parks from Oklahoma. That's an offensive tackle. My apologies. You brought in Bengley Kamara from Pittsburgh. These are names that have been around the block, and they're all going to be backing up proven starters. This is a schedule that I don't know how manageable it is, but we've already seen before where Beamer doesn't really care about that. He never has, he never will. It's all about the play on the field, and it all comes down to the defense. You can even ask for young up-and-comers like 5-star phenom Dylan Stewart to go ahead and make an impact, and so far he's done so. 9 starters returning on defense gives you a great formation of what to expect. And honestly, when you look at last season, the biggest problem for the Gamecocks never resided on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, there were definitely some highs and lows, but it really came down to the offensive line. And even though you still have a brand new offensive line coach, and you have also you still have Dow Loggins calling the plays, the biggest question mark isn't at LaNorris Sellers, and it isn't even at wide receivers, because you got some good up-and-comers and some guys that have been proven before, such as Gage Laverian from Miami of Ohio. You also landed Brady Hunt, the tight end from Ball State, who last year was great in the MAC. You also brought in guys like Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway, and Jared Brown from Coastal Carolina. There's some solid playmakers that are added into the fold. But to me, I wonder about what this defense can do. Because in games where you know that you're going down to the wire, it all comes down to getting that last stop. It all comes down to getting the ball back in Sellers' hands, getting the ball back to Rocket for him to be able to blast off and go 60 yards down the field. It's all about making sure that you can have a second chance to score, because it all comes down to one main element: offensive consistency. It's going to take time for an offense to build in. You're replacing 8 starters, including a quarterback that last year was a big reason why you were ever in games, a wide receiver that just got drafted in the first round by a team that he grew up rooting for, and also a couple of offensive linemen and running backs that are no longer here, and a tight end in Trey Knox. So I asked you, when you look at the South Carolina squad, what more do you need to define success this year? In my opinion, it's defense. You're able to go ahead and force 3-and-outs, get Sellers the football. And maybe it's not the perfect game plan, and maybe there are definitely some questions along the way. A ball gets batted down on 3rd down, and then you got to punt. Well, this is where your defense steps up again. Can you make sure you give consistent opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to Beamer and the boys on offense to run Beamer ball, to be that physical attacker, to give that type of ambiance that you need to be successful? I like South Carolina. I think South Carolina is one of those teams that kind of always flies under the radar and doesn't get the respect because of, you look at the other high-profile figures in the sport. Ole Miss, they're coming off an 11-win season. Missouri, coming off an 11-win season. Tennessee, they have the #1 quarterback recruit from 2023. LSU, they've been back-to-back double-digit win seasons under Brian Kelly, and they just had a Heisman Trophy winner. Alabama's a standout. Georgia's a standout. And here's South Carolina, which every few years will put up quality numbers and find their way into the top 25, but they never are viewed as a legit threat. In fact, you could go ahead and compare them in best case to a team like NC State, which lives one state above them. They're always good, but they're never great. And this is where South Carolina really wants to be able to take that next step forward. I believe that the Gamecocks have a good foundation in place on both sides of the football with Dylan Stewart and Josiah Thompson, the 4-star offensive tackle. I believe the offense can't get any worse in the trenches than it was last year. So once you hit rock bottom, there's only room to go up. And I believe that Sellers, with his rec specs, could eventually end up being a household name in the SEC. Would it shock you 2 years from now for us to be going to SEC media days and saying, you look at that LaNorris Sellers, Heisman Trophy contender? It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me to say that about Jackson Arnold and Nico Iamaleava either. But I look at where this team is headed. It all comes down to defense. Offensively, there were times underneath Spencer Rattler, underneath Juice Wells, underneath Xavier Legette, where they had to step up and be able to deliver, get that last touchdown, get into field goal range, be able to capitalize and put up points because they knew their defense wasn't going to be prepared. That's the way that I feel about it this year. Who's going to be that breakout stud? Is it going to be Alex Huntley? Is it going to be Debo Williams? Is it going to be Ben Martin Scott? Is it going to be DQ Smith? Is it going to be Emory Floyd? Is it going to be Jalen Kilgore? Is it going to be a backup that we haven't even talked about yet? If their defense can do a good enough job, not a great job, but a good enough job to make sure that the ball steps back into the hands of Sellers, steps back into Sanders, steps back into this passing attack, then I think South Carolina hangs around. And maybe that's what you're looking for right now, where games go into the fourth quarter and you're down by 24. Well, now you're only down by 3. It's manageable. And everyone knows that the final 15 minutes are what makes or breaks teams. Maybe that's South Carolina in 2024. If their defense can be as advertised, if they can live up to what Eamon Mori has been saying, we're going to be historic, then maybe it is a historic season down in Columbia. And maybe, just maybe, Beamer Ball does it again, defies preseason expectations and finds their way to be in that same conversation Missouri was a season ago. Or maybe even better than what Missouri was a season ago. But let me know in the comment section down below, what is the X factor defining trait for the Gamecocks in 2024? Make sure that you like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure you're following us on all of our social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show. And to keep up with the #1 content surrounding your favorite team, visit SECUnfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, folks. Later.